Hello, and welcome to the Autism Society San Diego's presentation on accessing Southern California theme park disability services. My name is Amy Manera. I am the outreach manager at Autism Society San Diego. And more importantly, I am the mother of 3 autistic sons, ages 23, 20, and almost 17. And we are all theme park addicts. So we spend a lot of time visiting our local theme parks and utilizing these disability services. So I'm happy to be able to share this with you so that you and your family can also take advantage of these wonderful recreational opportunities we have here in Southern California. Just because you have autism or a family member who is autistic does not mean that you don't have the right to participate in community activities such as theme parks and other recreational places. And these services exist to make these places more accessible for our family members. So I hope that you find this presentation to be of value. I'm going to start with the big one, and that would be Disneyland and its sister park, Disney California Adventure. Disneyland and California Adventure both use the same program, which is called the Disability Access Service, or DAS for short. This pass is good for up to 4 guests in addition to the person that is registered to, so up to 5 people in your party can use this service. If you do have more than one loved one who has autism, you can get a DAS for each of them. I often get one for both my oldest son and my youngest son if we have more than one adult with us, because sometimes they don't want to go on the same rides. You can now pre-register for the DAS on the Disneyland app or on their website through a live video chat. This is available as soon as 30 days before your visit and can be done as late as 2 days before your visit. However, I do highly encourage you to not wait until 2 days before your visit to try and do this, because often you can be waiting for the chat to be started for as many as 2, 3, 4 hours. So sometimes your chat will time out if you start it later in the day and you might not get through. So I do encourage people to start the chat as early in the day as possible and to do it as far in advance as is convenient for you to do so. When you're doing this video chat, the person who the DAS is for must be present. So if you're doing this for your child and they're the one with a disability, they do need to be physically present during the live video chat. Mainly, they just need to be physically there so the cast member can see them. Depending on how verbal your child is, they may or may not ask them a question or two, but the majority of what the talking and information sharing will be between you and the cast member. During this chat, you can also book 2 one-hour return windows for select experiences using what's called the DAS Advanced Planning option. This is in addition to the normal benefits of the system. Once you have registered for the DAS, it will remain active on your account for 120 days if you have a magic key or pass, or it will remain active for the length of your ticket. So if you have purchased a 3-day ticket, it will be good for all 3 days. You will not need to renew it. However, you can use the regular chat feature through the Disneyland app or website to book advanced planning return windows for additional visits during the 120-day period if you're somebody who is a pass holder. So, for example, I was at Disneyland with my son about 3 weeks ago. Our DAS is still active. So if I wanted to book advanced planning return windows for another visit, say in July, I would not need to register again. I would be able to just do it through the normal chat. It doesn't have to be through video chat to plan those return times. And the wait time for the regular chat as opposed to the video chat is quite a bit shorter. So you can also register for the DAS by going to the accessibility kiosk that is located in the Esplanade between Disneyland and Disney California Adventure. And that will be on the side closest to Disney California Adventure. This line can be pretty long, and it is now the only place that you can register in person. You used to be able to register inside of the parks, but that is no longer an option. So I do recommend doing this through the website if at all possible. It will save you a lot of time and hassle. So the way that the DAS works is it does not allow you to skip waiting, but it will give you a return time for each attraction, so you don't have to wait in the regular line on those long twisty queues, which can be very overwhelming for a lot of our loved ones. These return times can be booked directly through the Disneyland app, which is the quickest and most efficient way to maximize the benefits of the DAS to allow you to get more rides in with less wait time. However, you can book these return times through City Hall, the Chamber of Commerce, or at the guest information kiosks that are located throughout the park. You'll see those marked with green umbrellas. However, unless you are unable to do it with the app on your phone, I recommend not doing it that way. It can be very cumbersome to have to go up to the umbrellas every time you want a return time. Once you have the return time, you will access the rides at Disneyland and California Adventure in one of two ways. For the larger attractions, you return to the Lightning Lane and you enter the Lightning Lane line, and they will have barcode scanners. You use your phone and you can scan directly with your phone. For the smaller attractions, you'll go to the exit and they usually have a cast member standing there who will scan your barcodes for your return times. Once you have had these scanned and you first arrive at the attraction, you can immediately book the next ride. So if you've just scanned into the Lightning Lane for Space Mountain, for example, as soon as your barcode has been scanned, you can go ahead and book your next return time. So the time you spend walking through that line, getting on the ride and riding the ride can be part of your next return time. When we do this with my family and we go in the morning when the rides are shorter, we're often able to go immediately to the next ride because the waiting period will happen while we're on the ride that we're utilizing first. One thing to keep in mind is the person that the DOS is assigned to must always scan in first. So if you have 4 people in your party and you scan the person who doesn't have a disability first, it won't work. So always scan the person who the disability pass is assigned to first. Some other nice features about the Disneyland app is that you can use it to mobile order food and drinks from many of the dining locations throughout the parks. This way you can order your food in advance and select an arrival window to pick up your food, which allows you to avoid the longer food lines. The way that works is you'll place the order, it will let you know when the order is ready, and it'll tell you, oh, go pick up at window 2 of, whichever restaurant you have decided to order from. It's a great way to get something to eat without getting stuck in a long wait. Another service that can be really helpful for families with younger children is getting the stroller as a wheelchair tag for your child's stroller. This means that you can take the stroller anywhere that a wheelchair is permitted, and allows your child to remain in the stroller in many places that otherwise it would be prohibited, such as viewing areas for parades, viewing areas for fireworks and World of Color, and all of the different shows in the park. There are places where wheelchairs are permitted that normally you cannot take your stroller, but when you have this tag, it does allow you to bring your stroller into those locations. So this is what the Disneyland app will look like on your phone. Once you're logged in, if you have a pass or a ticket, it will say your name here. It will show all of your upcoming plans. As you can see, this one's a little bit old, but this is what it still looks like. I had a reservation on a Friday for 4 guests, which was me and my 3 children. And then if I scrolled down from here, you would see that as soon as we walked in the park, we booked Space Mountain as our disability access service. Then our next 2 rides here are those DAS advanced selections. We had pre-booked Big Thunder Mountain and we had pre-booked Haunted Mansion. So, and these are the times that you can go to those rides. One important thing to note is the disability access service return time that you book through your phone. You can go anytime starting at the time listed or actually 5 minutes before. So I would have been able to enter Space Mountain at 9:03, not 9:08. The DOS actually becomes active 5 minutes earlier than the time that it lists. But these advanced selections are more limited. You have to go between 10:30 and 11:30. If it's 11:31, they will not allow you to use them. Whereas this one for Space Mountain, I could go at 9:03, I could go at 10, I could go at 2 in the afternoon. It never expires, but you cannot have more than one active at any one time. So the way you get to the area to book your return time is you click on these 3 little lines here at the bottom of the app, and it'll open up this next screen, which looks like this. It lists a lot of different things, Genie Day, Future Plan, all these other things. This is where you would mobile order food. It's where your tickets and passes will be stored. But once you scroll a little further down, at the very bottom will be your disability access service. Once you click on this icon, it'll open up a list of every ride that is available currently that you could book your disability access time with. So if you wanted Small World, you'd click here. If you wanted Autopia, you'd click here. And it lists exactly what the standby wait time is for each selection. Then once you've selected the ride that you'd like to go on, we here selected the Haunted Mansion. You click this button right here where it says Request DOS Return Time. You click that and it will pull up a screen that looks like this, where it'll say the registered guest, and then you can select anybody else in your party that would be going. Then you hit continue, and that's how you book your return time. So a couple of helpful hints that I always like to recommend to people is that you should always try to arrive when the park opens if that's feasible for you. You can enter the parks as early as 7:30 a.m. on the days they open at 8, which is their standard opening time. And if you do that, you can do what's called rope drop, which is where you are able to enter on Main Street and stay there until cast members remove a rope that's actually physically a rope that blocks you from getting to the areas with the rides. And once they remove that rope, you can go directly to the rides. If you have a child who's really overwhelmed by crowds, this may or may not be a great option for you. So you may want to wait till 8 and avoid the rope drop, just because it can be a little congested and packed because everybody is kind of sitting there waiting to go in. However, wait times between 8 a.m. and 11 a.m. are going to be the shortest, and you can often get in many rides back to back if you go early. I know when I go with my children, when we go first thing when it opens, we're usually able to do maybe half of the park before we have lunch. So it can be really convenient time to be in the park. Weekdays are always going to be less crowded than weekends, and school holidays are always going to be crowded. Summer is going to be more crowded than winter. You know, anytime that there's breaks from school, there's going to be a bigger crowd. One thing that can be really helpful if you're going to be there for multiple days and if you can swing it is to have a hotel room that's nearby, because that allows you to leave the park and take a midday break. For a lot of our kids, being able to leave the park and take a small break and have some downtime to, you know, decompress and all of that can really make a difference for them to then be able to enjoy the rest of their day at the park or come back in the evening. I always recommend bringing noise canceling headphones if your child is willing to wear them. You can bring some favorite snacks, bring some favorite toys, bring fidgets, electronic devices, tablets, and cell phones can all make a huge difference. And for Disneyland and California Adventure especially, I always recommend bringing an external battery charger for your phone, because you will be using your app all day long to make the DOS return time reservations, and you don't want your phone to die. So if you're looking to go to a sit-down restaurant in either of the parks or in the downtown Disney area, reservations are super helpful. But if you don't have reservations, wait times will be shorter if you go at off hours, like go have lunch at 11 rather than noon, or have dinner early around 4 p.m. Tends to not be so crowded. If you try and have dinner at 6 p.m., there's going to be long waits. If you try to hit a lunch spot at 12:30, it's going to be crowded. If you're unable to find available reservations, there are paid sites such as mousewatcher.com that will help you get dining reservations. You simply let them know what dates you will be there and what restaurants you're looking to get into, and they will text and email you when cancellations happen and reservations open up. Another thing you can do at Disney and Disney California Adventure is use a Magic Band. A Magic Band is similar, well, it looks similar to a watch, but it allows you to scan into the park. And you can get one for each member of your party and connect them to your account and your tickets through the Disneyland app. And that way, you know, your kids could scan themselves into the park or into the rides. And again, just like with using your phone, the person who has the DOS assigned to them must be the first person to scan into any ride. So moving on to the next amusement park, that would be Knott's Berry Farm. Knott's Berry Farm uses what's called the boarding pass system for guests with disabilities. This is a physical paper pass. You are not going to be able to do this online or through an app. You obtain the boarding pass by going to guest services, which is located just across from the large wooden roller coaster named Ghost Rider. The boarding pass is good for up to 4 additional guests in addition to the person with the disability. The person that you're getting the boarding pass assigned to must be physically present when you go to get this pass, and they will give you wristbands for everybody else in your party to wear. The person with the disability is not required to wear a wristband. So for your first ride, you will present the boarding pass at the exit of the ride, and they will give you immediate access onto that ride. They will then write down a return time that you'll use for your next ride. That return time is based on the current wait for the ride that you're at. So if you go to a ride with an hour-long wait, you will not be able to use your boarding pass for 1 hour. If you go to a ride that has a 20-minute wait, you'll have a 20-minute wait for your next ride. You must obtain a new boarding pass each and every day that you visit the park. So if you go on a Saturday and a Sunday, you will have to get in line at guest services both of those days, and they do not have an electronic option. One tip that I always tell people is if you have a ride that you really want to go on and it's got an hour or a 2 hour wait time, what we usually do is we save those for right before lunch. So we'll go on a ride with a 1 hour wait time. And when we get off that ride, rather than having to figure out what to do to fill our time, we'll go eat lunch, or we'll save those rides for right before we leave the park. So Ghost Rider in particular tends to have a very, very long line, often 2 hours plus. So we tend to do that as our last ride on the way out of the park, because then the return time isn't relevant because we're leaving. So this is what the attraction boarding pass looks like. They will write your loved one's name right here and the date that it's valid for, as well as how many people are in your party. And then when you go to a ride, they put a little abbreviation for whatever the name of the ride is, and they put what the boarding time is, and then they initial it. And so the boarding time, this is going to be when you would be able to use your next boarding time. And then once that boarding time has been used, they will strike it out. And so each time you go back, they will write a new boarding time. Then the other side of the pass just tells you some of the rules of how it works. So again, just like with Disney or California Adventure, I always recommend arriving when the park opens. Ride times between 9 a.m. and 12 are the shortest, and you can, again, often get many rides in back-to-back if you go early. Just like with every place else, weekdays are going to be less crowded than weekends, and school holidays are going to be crowded. Having a hotel room can be helpful at this park as well. So if you need to take a midday break, go swim in the pool, go someplace quiet, just decompress. It can really help our kids to kind of reset and have some sensory downtime. Again, I always recommend bringing noise canceling headphones, favorite snacks and toys, fidgets and electronic devices. All of these things can really help keep your child calm and regulated while you're in the park. And again, I always recommend battery chargers. You don't want your child's iPad to die while they're waiting in a line. It's just not going to make your day any easier. You cannot use the boarding pass at Knott Soak City, but you can use it for their evening Halloween event, Knott Scary Farm. That is a haunt event that they hold every year. They feature 10 different haunts as well as different scare zones. I would not recommend this for younger children or anyone who is easily frightened, but if you have a child that enjoys Halloween and scary things, it is a really wonderfully well done event. The next park I'm going to be talking about is Universal Studios Hollywood. They have a program called the Attraction Assistance Pass. This is also a paper pass that you must obtain at each and every visit. It's only good for one day. However, in order to use this program, you do have to first obtain an individual accessibility card, or IAC, through IBCCES, which is the International Board of Credentialing and Continuing Education Standards. This is done online at www.accessibilitycard.org. So when you go onto this site, you will need to fill out a short form detailing what your loved one's needs and issues are, and then you will receive an IAC that's good for up to 1 year at any participating park. And there is a list on the website of which parks are a part of this system. You will also need to upload proof of disability. They ask for something from a medical professional, but I have successfully used my children's IEP cover pages as proof of diagnosis, and an IPP cover page from the regional center will also work. Then once you have filled out this form, you also do need to speak on the phone to someone from Universal Studios, and they will call you from a number in Florida. It will not be from Hollywood. It will be from their Florida location, because that's where their accessibility team is located. I have had the experience where I have registered for the IAC and not gotten this phone call, and then it creates kind of a lot of hassle when you arrive at the park because you are supposed to have done this prior. So if you're not contacted prior to your visit, you can also reach out to the Universal Orlando Accessibility team yourself. And this is their phone number right here. I was able to get it from guest services the last time I was at Universal Studios, because this call does need to be done prior to your visit. Otherwise, you have to go through the whole process then and there at guest services, and it can be time consuming. And, we don't want to make our kids have to wait while we're going through that process. So once you are at the park, you will visit guest relations once you enter, and that is on the right-hand side, and they will issue you a paper pass for the guest attraction assistance pass. It's good for up to 3 additional guests plus the person it's for, so only 4 people total can be in your party. Once you have the pass, you will take the pass to the ride that you wish to access, and if the wait is 45 minutes or less, you'll be directed to join the Universal Express lane to board through the exit. If the wait is more than 45 minutes, you will be given a return time that's equal to the wait time. You can use the attraction assistance pass to also get priority entrance to the many shows at Universal Studios, as well as an alternate waiting area for those shows. The attraction assistance pass is also good for their Halloween event, the Hollywood Horror Nights, which is also another big, large haunt that features multiple haunt mazes. This is what the attraction assistance pass looks like. On the front, they'll put the date and the name of the person it's assigned to and how many people are in your group, and it lists some of the rules. And then similarly to the way they do it at Knott's, they put your the name of the attraction, your arrival time, the current wait time, and what your return time is. And then they'll cross it out once you use that return time, and so forth as you go throughout your day. However, like I said, if it's less than 45 minutes, they will simply direct you to join the line and nothing will be written on your attraction assistance pass in that case. So again, I may sound like a broken record, but you should always try to arrive when the park opens if at all possible. The wait times between 9 and 12 are going to often always be the shortest, and you can often get in many rides back to back if you go early. Weekdays are less crowded than weekends. School holidays are going to be crowded. And because this park has a much smaller footprint than some of the others, when it's crowded, it feels more crowded than the other ones because a lot of the areas where in between the rides are not very large, so the crowds can get very dense. Super Mario World does tend to be the most crowded area of the entire park. So if your child wants to go on the Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge ride, which is a really fun ride, you really should get there as early as possible because once it gets crowded, it can be really difficult to navigate through Super Mario Land. Again, having a hotel room can be very helpful if you can afford it and if you're there long enough for it to make sense. Having that midday break, it makes a huge difference for my kids for sure. I always recommend, again, noise canceling headphones, snacks, toys, familiar comfort items, fidgets, cell phones, iPhones, iPads, all of that stuff can be great to help with the waiting. And again, make sure you bring some battery chargers. One nice thing about Universal Studios is if the park is busy and the restaurants there are crowded, there are tons of food options in the nearby Universal City Walk, from really nice sit-down restaurants to fast food and everything in between. So it's a great way to get a break from the crowds of the park, but also get something to eat without having to wait in a bunch of lines. So I always recommend Universal City Walk as a good option for a break and for a meal. The next park we will go over is Six Flags Magic Mountain. Six Flags Magic Mountain offers the attraction accessibility program. And just like Universal Studios, in order to use this program, you must first obtain an individual accessibility card through the IBCCS. Again, it's done online. You fill out a form explaining what your children's needs are, and they will issue you this card. It's electronic. You can store it on your phone. You can also print it out if you want to have a physical copy. Another nice thing about Six Flags Magic Mountain is that they are a certified autism center, and this means that their staff has had extra training on disability. And I've found them all to be very accommodating, but that's pretty much the case in my experience across all of the parks, but Six Flags does provide this extra level of training. So for their program, they do not state a standard wait time, but when I have used this pass with my kids, we've had virtually no wait time for any attraction. They pretty much put you right on. This is what the IAC looks like. This is my sweet son, Patrick. It has a number issued to it, and then it lists what the accommodations are. And these are based on the form that you fill out for your child when you register for this. So, you know, he might be sensitive to touch. He has a hard time standing in a line. He's sensitive to lights and colors and sounds and crowds and enclosed spaces. So this way, you know, it literally lists exactly why you are asking for these accommodations. And then it'll say which parks you're planning to visit. This is an old IAC. I just doesn't list Universal Studios. But we were planning on visiting Six Flags when we had this one issued to us. So some helpful hints for Six Flags. Again, come as early as you can. The earlier you go, the shorter the waits are going to be, and you can get a lot more rides in if you go in the morning. Weekdays are less crowded. School holidays will be crowded. And also the summer will be crowded. Another thing to keep in mind for Six Flags, if you have a child who is sensitive to heat, it tends to be very, very hot at Magic Mountain in the summer. So keep that in mind. If you go July, August, it's going to be very, very warm there. So, have a plan for how to deal with that. And you can bring a mister, bring little portable fans, but it tends to be probably the hottest of the amusement parks. They do also offer mobile food ordering through the app, which allows you to skip the food lines. I definitely recommend this at Six Flags as they tend to have super long food lines. Having a hotel room can be helpful. Again, if you can afford it, if it works for you, if it makes sense for your life. This park is north of LA, so often you're not going to want to be driving home from that far of a location after a long day. So I do recommend trying to get a hotel room nearby. Again, I always recommend noise canceling headphones, favorite snacks and toys, fidgets, devices, whatever is impactful for your child to keep them calm, keep them regulated, keep them distracted while they're waiting. And again, battery chargers are your friend. So the next park that I'm going to be talking to is closer to home, and that would be Legoland, California, which is in Carlsbad. And they use the assisted access pass, which you can get at guest relations, which is to the right once you enter the park. The assisted access pass is good for up to 4 guests in addition to the person it's issued to, so 5 in total, and it's a paper pass that you must obtain each time you visit. For your first ride, there is no wait time. You will be boarded immediately through the exit of the first attraction you go to. You will then be issued a return time for your next attraction. You can also get a companion ticket or pass, which allows a caretaker to attend for free for each disabled person who is in your group, which is a really nice perk. They also offer the stroller as a wheelchair option like Disneyland does, which is really helpful as it allows your child to remain in their stroller in areas where normally they would be asked to, you'd be asked to park your stroller and make your child get out. Another nice thing about Legoland is they too are a certified autism center, and their staff has extra training on disability. They also offer a sensory guide, which you can download from their website, and you can also get at guest services, and that explains the sensory level of each ride. And they also have a sensory room in Funtown within the Duplo Family Center, which provides a quiet space for guests who need it. They also have sensory signs throughout the park explaining some of their different attractions and areas and what you might experience. So they've really made an effort to make it as sensory friendly as possible. A nice thing about Legoland is they have a lot of activities to fill in the time between rides, like play structures and play areas, water features, Lego building areas, and these are scattered throughout the park. So there's so many built-in areas in this park for downtime and getting out extra energy, as well as passing the time between the rides, which is really helpful. So this is what the assisted access pass looks like. It's a brochure, and on the back is where they put the assisted access pass. They'll put, the name of the person it's assigned to, the date, and all of that up here. These are where they put in like their initials and such. And then they'll fill it in with the wait time, the ride name, and the initials of the person authorizing it, similarly to the way they do it the other parks that use paper passes. I know I sound like a broken record on this one, but always arrive as early as possible if you can. The first couple hours of the day are the least crowded, and you'll be able to get in a lot of rides if you come early. Weekdays are less crowded than weekends. School holidays are always going to be crowded. The same items that I recommend for all of the other parks would apply here. Just having those comfort items and things that will keep your child regulated and entertained while you're going from place to place or waiting in line, it really can make a big difference in how well they do at the park. And here is the email for Legoland. You can request the free caregiver pass by emailing here, and you can get that set up before you actually go to the park. Otherwise, you have to do it out when you get to the park. There is a set of bank of windows to the right of the entrance, and you can go there and request it as well. But if you email, it does save you some time and hassle of waiting in line. So the next park I'm going to go over is SeaWorld San Diego. SeaWorld San Diego has a ride accessibility program that offers the special access pass. And again, this is a paper pass that you obtain each time you visit from guest relations. Guest relations is to the right once you enter the park. It's good for up to 5 guests in addition to the person the pass is assigned to, so you can have a group of up to 6. And SeaWorld also offers a free companion ticket or pass for each disabled person in your group, which allows free entrance for a caretaker. Once you have obtained the special access pass, you will go to the exit of the smaller rides and will be able to board immediately. For the larger attractions, you will go to the ride entrance and show your pass to the team there, and they will issue a return time that is the same as the current wait time for the attraction. SeaWorld is also another park that offers the stroller's wheelchair tag, which is helpful at SeaWorld, especially for their shows, because they do have a lot of different animal shows, and it allows you to sit in the disability seating area and your child can remain in their stroller, which can be helpful for any sensory issues. SeaWorld also has a lot of areas for downtime. They have a couple arcades, they have animal exhibits, they have play areas. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do to fill in that dead time in between waiting for your next return time for a ride. So again, I always recommend coming in the morning, getting there as early as possible if you're trying to get a bunch of rides in. You can also email to get the companion pass, and this is the email address for their accessibility program. They can answer any questions you have, and they can help you with requesting that free companion pass. Again, weekdays are going to be less crowded, and school holidays are going to be your biggest crowds. Definitely bring all of the items that will help your child be able to remain calm and regulated and entertained while you're there. And a nice feature of SeaWorld for those of you with young children is that they have a Sesame Street themed area with some small, like kiddie sort of rides, and that tends to not be as crowded as some of the other areas of the park. The next park we are going to go over is Sesame Place. Sesame Place, similarly to SeaWorld, as they're owned by the same entity, offers the ride accessibility program, which features the special access pass. Again, this is a paper pass that you obtain each and every time you visit from guest relations, and guest relations is to the right once you enter the park. It's good for up to 5 guests in addition to the person the pass is assigned to, so you can have up to 6 people in your party, and you can also get a free companion ticket or pass for each disabled person in your group. Sesame Place is also a certified autism center, which means their staff has that extra training on disability, and they have a sensory guide which explains their sensory level for every ride. And they also have 2 quiet rooms near the first aid station, which is behind Sesame Souvenirs. These rooms have adjustable lighting and comfortable seating areas for guests to take a break. These rooms are locked to ensure privacy, so if you'd like to use them, you can visit guest services to receive the code needed to enter. Once you have your special access pass, you will go to the exit of the smaller rides and will be able to board immediately. For the larger attractions, you will go to the ride entrance and show your pass to the team member there, and they will issue a return time that is the same as the current wait time for the attraction. And just like every other park, I always recommend getting there as early as you can so that you can avoid the bulk of the crowds. This is the email address that you can use to reach out to them to ask about accessibility and to request the companion pass. And again, weekdays are going to be the least crowded, and school holidays are going to be the most crowded. However, this park does not tend to get as crowded as some of the other larger parks. And again, be sure to bring all of the items that you know your child likes and enjoys and will make them able to stay calm and more regulated while in this somewhat stimulating environment. Then my next topic here is not specifically a theme park, but it's also one of the great things that we have here in San Diego is our world famous zoo and safari park. And they do also offer disability access services. So for both the zoo and the San Diego Zoo Safari Park, you can get a free entrance for a caregiver for each guest with a disability. And this needs to be done at the ticket booth the day that you attend. If you have a pass, they will put a stamp onto the child's pass, and that can be, then you won't have to renew it each and every time. And that can be used for anyone. It does not have to be assigned to a specific person. So if you have a child with a disability and they have a pass and they put this disability icon onto their pass, you can send them there with their ABA therapist. You could send them there with their respite care. You could send them there with their grandmother. It just allows one person to get in. It's not assigned to a specific person. San Diego Zoo and the Safari Park have teamed up with Culture City to offer sensory bags called KC VIP bags. These contain noise-canceling headphones, fidgets, and a special badge on a lanyard that can be worn to indicate that you need special assistance. They also have weighted lap pads that they can loan out, and these items are free of charge for guests to borrow. You do have to return them at the end of the day. They also offer the Easy Access Pass, and this can be used for the tram at the safari park and for the guided bus tours and Skyfari at the zoo. And it allows you to wait outside of the line for the guests with a disability and up to 3 additional guests, so up to 4 people total. For the zoo and the safari park, just like any other big amusement center, the earlier you arrive, the least crowded it will be. Weekdays are always going to be less crowded. School holidays will always be the most crowded. Again, bringing the things that you need to keep your child calm and well regulated is important, but remember that you can access those KC VIP bags if you need them, and it's nice to have those available. Another thing that I wanted to share with you is if you're planning on ever visiting any of our many beautiful national parks, the National Park Services offers the National Park Access Pass, and this is offered to any U.S. citizen or permanent resident that has a permanent disability, of which autism is a permanent disability. This pass can be issued to people of any age that have this permanent disability, and you do have to provide documentation of the disability. It can be something from a doctor, but IEPs and things of that nature also do work. You also do have to provide proof of residency and or citizenship. This pass only costs $10, and it is good for the entire rest of the person's life. And you can apply for it online at this link here, or you can also apply in person at any of the national parks. So in summary, going to any park or entertainment center is going to be easier on a weekday. It's not always going to be feasible, but if it's a weekday that's not a holiday, that's going to be your lightest crowds. If you're going in January or February, it's going to be a lot less crowded than going in July. So if you're trying these out and you have a child who has not been to these parks before and you want to ease them into it, maybe try and go on a weekday in the off season, and that'll be your least crowded and easiest entrance point into some of these activities. It's important to always bring items to distract, entertain, and comfort your child, such as favorite snacks, toys, electronic items, fidgets, and noise-canceling headphones. These make a huge difference in being able to keep your child happy, calm, well-regulated, comforted, all of those things. And I always recommend that you read your child. It's much better to go to a park and cut your visit short and come back and try again than it is to power through tiredness and sensory overload. If you can make it through a visit for 2 hours successfully, that's a win, because if you then try and power through it and your child becomes dysregulated, they have a meltdown, they'll have a negative association with the experience, they may not want to return. But if you make it for 2 hours and it's a success, then maybe the next time you go, you could last 3 hours or 4 hours. And that way you don't have a negative association with, wow, mom took me to this park and I was so overwhelmed, but we just stayed there and just fought through it, because that just is not fun for anyone. And being able to take a midday break can be super helpful. And whether that's at a hotel, a restaurant, or you just find a quiet area, just being able to have some time to decompress and get regulated again can make a huge difference in your experience and in your child's experience. So I always recommend that you try to pace yourself and try to resist the pressure to go on every ride or to every exhibit, because, more is not always better, and, less can be better, especially if it allows you to have a successful visit where you leave with a smile on your face rather than a visit where you leave with a crying child. So I hope that you enjoyed this presentation. I hope you were able to get out there and visit all of these wonderful attractions that we have here in Southern California. We are lucky to have so many options available, and it's great that so many of these places care about providing access and support to our community, because again, we are part of our community. People with autism have just as much a right to be out in the community and part of the community and having these experiences as anyone else. And these services exist so that we can make it easier for people in our community to do so. So thank you very much for attending, and we hope that you are able to enjoy our many wonderful theme parks. Thanks so much, and have a wonderful day.